The Galactic Council's decision, the massive chamber on planet Vega Prime, buzzed with angry voices from dozens of alien species. Commander Vex of the Reptilian Fleet slammed his scaled fist on the metal table. The holographic display showed human expansion across 17 star systems in just 50 years. These humans spread like a virus, hissed Admiral Krell from the insectoid hive worlds. They take our mining rights, our trade routes, our colonies. We gave them warnings. They ignored us. The blue-skinned Chancellor Moore nodded slowly. His people had ruled this sector for 3,000 years. The Earth creatures show no respect for galactic law. They build weapons we have never seen. Their ships move faster than our best designs. Around the circular table, representatives from 47 species agreed. The humans had to be stopped. They were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too aggressive. We have no choice, declared General Tusk, his massive frame towering over the others. We must end this threat before they grow stronger. The vote was unanimous. The greatest military alliance in galactic history would unite against one small blue planet and its scattered colonies. Fleet Admiral Kor took command of the operation. His species had conquered hundreds of worlds. We will send everything, he announced. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. No human will survive this day. The superfleet began gathering at the edge of the Sol system. 2 million warships from across the galaxy. Planet-killer weapons that could crack moons in half. Shields that could stop stars from burning. The most advanced technology from civilizations that had mastered space travel before humans discovered fire. Meanwhile, on Earth, the small Human Defense Council met in an underground bunker. President Clark looked tired as he studied the reports from their deep space sensors. They're coming, said General Ross, pointing to the tactical display. More ships than we've ever seen. Maybe more than anyone has ever seen. Defense Minister. Vale frowned. Our colonies are evacuating. We've pulled back all civilian traffic, but our fleet ... She shook her head. We have maybe 300 ships ready for battle. 300 against 2 million, Clark muttered. The news networks are calling it the end of humanity. But Dr. Webb, the head of human military research, smiled quietly in the corner. Sir, we've been working on something. Project Sunfire. It's ready for field testing. What kind of testing? Ross asked. The kind that turns enemy fleets into vapor, Webb replied calmly. The superfleet moved closer to Earth's solar system. Their scouts reported the human ships were fleeing deeper into space. The aliens felt confident. Their enemy was running. Scared. Admiral Kor broadcast a message to every ship in his massive fleet. Today, we remove a cancer from the galaxy. Today, we show the universe that no upstart species can challenge the established order. On Earth, the evacuation of major cities continued. Children were moved to underground shelters. The elderly were taken to protected zones. But most adults stayed above ground, watching the skies. If we die today, President Clark said in his final broadcast, we die as free beings. We will not kneel to anyone. The superfleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Their sensors immediately detected the small human fleet waiting near Mars. The aliens laughed at the sight. A few hundred tiny ships against their overwhelming force. This will be over in minutes, Admiral Kor told his commanders. Prepare all weapons. Show no mercy. The human ships began moving toward the alien fleet. They looked small and weak compared to the massive alien dreadnoughts. Some alien crews actually felt sorry for the humans. This would be a massacre. But deep in the Sol system, hidden behind the moon, something else was waiting. Something the aliens had never seen before. Something that would change everything. Dr. Webb stood in the command center, his hand hovering over a single red button. Project Sunfire is online, he reported. All stations ready. President Clark nodded. The galaxy wanted to see what humans can do when cornered. Let's show them. The superfleet spread out across space, their weapons charging. Victory seemed certain. The aliens had superior numbers, superior technology, superior firepower. What could a primitive species like humanity possibly do against such overwhelming odds? They were about to find out. Asterisk, the alien superfleet moved through space like a metal storm. Ship after ship emerged from hyperspace jumps, their hulls gleaming under the distant light of Sol. The formation stretched across millions of kilometers, a sight that would have terrified any normal enemy. Admiral Kor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the destroyer of worlds. The massive ship was larger than most human cities. Its weapons could glass entire continents. Around him, his officers worked with cold efficiency. Report, Kor commanded. All fleets have arrived, replied Captain Voss. We count 1,000,000. 700,000 ships ready for battle. The humans have approximately 300 vessels detected. Kor nodded. The odds were perfect. His species had destroyed entire civilizations with far smaller fleets. These humans would be nothing more than a footnote in galactic history. What about their defensive positions? He asked. Minimal, sir. They have some satellites around there. Outer planets, a few space stations. Nothing that can threaten us. The alien fleet commanders felt relaxed. Some even joked about how easy this would be. The reptilian ships hissed their approval. The insectoid vessels clicked their weapon systems in excitement. The massive stone ships of the rock people moved, slowly but steadily forward. On the bridge of the human flagship Defiance, Captain Miller watched the approaching alien fleet through the view screen. The ships seemed endless, stretching beyond the horizon of space itself. Sir, called out Lieutenant Hayes from the sensor station, we're getting more accurate counts. Over 2,000,000 ships now. They're still coming. Miller remained calm. He had been briefed on Project Sunfire. He knew what was waiting for the aliens. Keep our ships in formation. Make them think we're planning a traditional battle. The human fleet looked pitifully small compared to the alien Armada. 300 ships against 2,000,000. The crews knew the odds. They knew what the galaxy expected to happen. But they also knew something the aliens did not. In the hidden command center on Earth's moon, Dr. Webb monitored the alien approach. His team had spent 20 years developing Project Sunfire. 20 years of secret research, hidden from every spy network in the galaxy. Distance to target fleet? He asked. 15 million kilometers and closing, reported Technician Brown. They're maintaining standard battle formation. Perfect. The aliens were doing exactly what human strategists had predicted. They were so confident in their victory that they weren't even trying to be clever. They were just flying straight at Earth, like a cosmic battering ram. How long until they reach optimal range? Webb asked. 17 minutes, sir. Webb nodded. 17 minutes. Until the galaxy learned what humanity was truly capable of. Back in the alien fleet, the mood was almost festive. Species that had been enemies for centuries were working together, united by their hatred of humanity. The bird-like soar people flew their ships in elegant formations. The aquatic deep ones moved their vessels in fluid patterns. The energy beings of the Void Collective pulsed with anticipation. This is almost too easy, Admiral Kor told his staff. The humans aren't even trying to run. They're just sitting there, waiting to die. Perhaps they know resistance is futile, suggested Captain Voss. Their leaders might be hoping for mercy. Kor laughed, a sound like grinding metal. There will be no mercy. The galaxy demands their complete destruction. The alien fleet began spreading out, preparing for the final assault. Planet killer weapons powered up. Shields reached maximum strength. Every ship in the Armada was ready to unleash hell upon the small human fleet. But the humans weren't preparing for a traditional space battle. They were preparing for something else entirely. Asterisk. All ships, this is Captain Miller, came the broadcast over human communication channels. Remember, we're not here to win a fight. We're here to buy time. 18 minutes of time. The human captains acknowledged the order. They knew their role. They were bait, designed to keep the alien fleet exactly where Project Sunfire needed them to be. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky. They had been told that something special was about to happen. Something that would save humanity. And shock that Galaxy. President Clark stood in his bunker, surrounded by his top advisors. Dr. Webb, are we really sure about this? Webb nodded confidently. Mr. President, we've tested this technology extensively. The aliens have no idea what's coming. And it will work against all of them? Even the energy beings? Against everything. Sir, Project Sunfire doesn't discriminate. The countdown continued. The alien fleet drew closer. And hidden behind the moon, humanity's ultimate weapon prepared to fire. Asterisk, the alien superfleet reached attack range. 2 million ships spread across the solar system like a plague of metal locusts. Their weapons were fully charged, their shields at maximum power. The small human fleet looked helpless in comparison. Admiral Kor stood ready to give the order that would end humanity forever. His massive flagship hummed with contained energy. Around him, his officers waited for the command to fire. Sir, we have target locks on all human vessels, reported Captain Voss. All fleet commanders are ready. Excellent, Kor replied. Open a channel to the human fleet. I want them to hear their death sentence. The transmission crackled across space. Humans of Earth, Kor's voice boomed. You have defied the galactic order for the last time. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make them last for days. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Miller received the message. He looked at his crew, men and women who had volunteered for what everyone thought was a suicide mission. Send our reply, Miller ordered. The human response was simple. We don't surrender. We don't kneel. And we don't die easy. Kor snarled at the defiant words. So be it. All ships, prepare to fire. Target their engines first. I want them to drift helplessly while we destroy them one by one. The alien fleet raised their weapons. Millions of gun barrels pointed at the small human formation. Energy began building in weapon systems that could crack planets. But behind the moon, Dr. Webb was making final preparations. Project Sunfire is fully charged, he reported. All targeting systems are locked onto the alien fleet. President Clark took a deep breath. Dr. Webb, explain to me one more time what's about to happen. Webb smiled grimly. Sir, we're going to demonstrate why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We're going to show them what happens when you corner a predator. The alien fleet began their attack. Millions of energy beams lanced out toward the human. Ships, the smaller human vessels dodged and weaved, their captains buying precious seconds. Human ships are taking evasive action, reported an alien sensor operator. They're faster than our projections indicated. It doesn't matter, Kor growled. We have so many ships that they can't dodge forever. Keep firing. The space battle looked exactly like what the galaxy expected. The massive alien fleet overwhelming the tiny human force. Some human ships were hit and destroyed. Others were damaged but kept fighting. It seemed like a hopeless last stand. But the real battle was about to begin. Dr. Webb, came President Clark's voice over the communication system. You have authorization to fire Project Sunfire. Webb nodded to his team. Initiate firing sequence. Deep beneath the moon's surface, a massive installation came to life. It had been built in secret over 2 decades, using technology that no alien species had ever imagined. The entire moon had been converted into a weapon. "Sunfire is online," reported the lead technician. "Target the entire alien fleet. Energy levels are at maximum," called out another operator. "We're reading stable fusion reactions across all chambers." Webb placed his hand on the firing control. "For humanity." He pressed the button. The moon exploded. Not destroyed, transformed. The entire lunar surface erupted in brilliant light as Project Sunfire activated. The moon became a miniature star, burning with the power of controlled fusion. But this wasn't just a big bomb. This was something far more terrifying. The energy didn't expand outward like a normal explosion. Instead, it formed into millions of focused beams, each one aimed at a different alien ship. The beams moved at the speed of light, crossing the millions of kilometers to their targets in seconds. The alien fleet had no time to react. Their sensors couldn't even detect the incoming attack until it was too late. "Admiral," Kor saw a bright flash on his view screen. "What was that?" he demanded. "Unknown energy signature from the human moon," his sensor operator replied. It's... The beam hit the destroyer of worlds' dead center. The massive flagship, with its incredibly powerful shields and armor, simply vanished, not destroyed, completely vaporized. Admiral Kor and his entire crew were turned to atoms in a microsecond. Across the alien fleet, the same thing happened to ship after ship. The energy beams struck with perfect accuracy, each one calibrated to completely destroy its target. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds were reduced to glowing particles. The most powerful military force in galactic history was being erased from existence. And it was happening in seconds. The alien superfleet died in silence. In the vacuum of space, there was no sound as 2 million warships were reduced to nothing more than expanding clouds of hot gas and scattered atoms. Captain Miller watched from the bridge of the Defiance as the enemy fleet simply disappeared. One moment, the view screen showed an endless armada of alien ships. The next moment, there was nothing but empty space dotted with tiny points of light where the vessels had been vaporized. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Hayes, "they're all gone." All of them. The crew of the Defiance stared in amazement. They had expected to die fighting. Instead, they had witnessed the complete destruction of the greatest military force in galactic history. "Sir," called out the communications officer, "we're receiving a message from Earth Command." "Put it through," Miller ordered. President Clark's voice filled the bridge. "All human vessels. This is Earth Command. The alien fleet has been neutralized. I repeat, the alien fleet has been completely destroyed." A cheer went up from the crew. They had survived. Humanity had survived, but the real shock was spreading across the galaxy. On the insectoid homeworld of Hive Prime, Queen Zara watched the battle through long-range sensors. Her species had contributed 50,000 ships to the superfleet. Now all of them were gone. How is this possible? She clicked in disbelief. No weapon in the galaxy has that kind of power. Her chief scientist, a smaller insectoid named Blix, studied the sensor data. "My queen, the energy readings are off. Our scales. The humans somehow turned their moon into a weapon." "Their moon?" Zara's compound eyes widened. "The entire moon?" "Yes, my queen. They converted the entire celestial body into some kind of directed energy weapon. The power output was equivalent to a star. On the reptilian world of Scales, General, Reth received similar reports. His people had sent their entire battle fleet to destroy humanity. Now that fleet was nothing but floating particles. The humans did this," he hissed. "These primitive creatures?" "The data is clear, General," replied his aide. "They have technology we have never seen. They can destroy entire fleets in seconds." Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Species that had considered humans to be nothing more than aggressive barbarians were suddenly terrified. The small blue planet had just demonstrated power beyond anything anyone had imagined. Back on Earth, Dr. Webb stood in the Project Sunfire control room, watching the aftermath. His team had spent decades developing the technology. They had converted the entire moon into a massive fusion reactor, capable of generating and directing energy on a scale that dwarfed anything in the galaxy. "Sir?" asked one of his technicians. "What do we do now?" Webb smiled. "Now we send a message." The message went out on every communication frequency in the galaxy. It was brief and simple. "This is Earth. We tried to live in peace. You chose war. This is what happens when you threaten humanity. We suggest you remember this lesson." The response was immediate. Panic spread through every alien civilization. Trade routes were abandoned. Military fleets retreated to their home systems. The galactic economy collapsed overnight as species realized they had been living next to a monster. The bird-like Soar people, who had always considered themselves the greatest military strategists in the galaxy, called an emergency council. "We must never fight these humans," declared their war chief. "They have power we cannot comprehend." The energy beings of the Void Collective, who existed as pure thought, were equally shaken. They had believed themselves to be the most advanced species in existence. Now they realized they were children compared to humanity. "The humans have weaponized a celestial body," their leader pulsed. "They have turned physics itself into a weapon." On the aquatic world of Deep Blue, the whale-like inhabitants gathered in their underwater cities. They had contributed their bioships to the superfleet. Now those ships were gone, along with the crews who had piloted them. "We underestimated them," sang their elder. "We thought they were just another violent species. We were wrong." The truth was spreading throughout the galaxy. Humanity was not just another spacefaring civilization. They were apex predators who had learned to harness the power of stars themselves. Species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years were now afraid to leave their home systems. The humans had shown them what real power looked like, and this was just the beginning. On Earth, President Clark addressed the world. "Today, we have shown the galaxy that humanity will not be bullied. We will not be conquered. We will not be destroyed. We are here to stay." The age of human dominance had begun. Asterisk, the galactic communication networks buzzed with panicked messages. Within hours of the superfleet's destruction, every major civilization was in emergency session. The impossible had happened. Humanity had wiped out the greatest military force in recorded history. On the crystal world of purity, the ethereal beings known as the Enlightened held their first emergency council in 3,000 years. Their leader, a being of pure light called the First Voice, spoke in harmonious tones that resonated through crystal chambers. "The humans have shattered our understanding of warfare," the First Voice declared. "They have shown us that we are not the advanced species we believed ourselves to be." The Enlightened had always considered themselves the intellectual superiors of the galaxy. They had mastered energy manipulation, dimensional travel, and consciousness transfer. But they had never imagined turning an entire moon into a weapon. "What do we do?" asked the second voice, her light flickering with uncertainty. "We adapt," came the reply. "We must learn from this. The humans have taught us that there are no limits to destruction." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. The rock people of the stone worlds, who had lived for millions of years and considered themselves eternal, were questioning their own immortality. "If the humans can destroy our greatest ships in seconds," rumbled their elder, "what else can they destroy?" The answer was becoming clear to everyone. Anything they wanted dot in the neutral trading stations that dotted the galaxy. Alien merchants were already changing their business practices. Human goods, once considered primitive trinkets, were now being treated as potential weapons. Human territory, once seen as easy targets for expansion, was now marked as absolute no-go zones. New shipping regulations, announced Station Master Call to his diverse crew. No ship enters human space without explicit permission. No human cargo is to be inspected. No human requests are to be denied. The economic implications were staggering. Humanity had gone from being a minor player in galactic trade to being the most feared power in the galaxy. Every species now had to consider, what would the humans do if they were threatened again? But the most significant changes were happening in the military commands of major civilizations. On the fortress world of Iron Prime, the cybernetic beings known as the Machine Collective were running calculations at unprecedented speeds. Their metal bodies clicked and whirred as they processed the implications of humanity's demonstration. Analysis complete, announced Unit Prime 7. Human military capabilities exceed our projections by a factor of 10,000. How is this possible? Asked Unit Command Alpha. Our intelligence indicated they were a standard Type 2 civilization. Our intelligence was flawed, Prime 7 replied. The humans have been hiding their true capabilities. They are a Type 4 civilization, masquerading as primitives. The Machine Collective immediately began redesigning their entire military doctrine. Their perfectly logical minds had reached an inescapable conclusion. Humanity was not to be fought. They were to be avoided, appeased, and if necessary, served. Similar realizations were spreading throughout the galaxy. The proud warrior culture of the Flame Riders, who had never retreated from any battle, were now teaching their young to avoid human space entirely. There is no honor in fighting an enemy who can erase you from existence, declared the war. Chief, the humans have shown us that some battles cannot be won. But it was the response of the galaxy's oldest civilization that truly showed how much had changed. The ancients had ruled the galactic core for 50,000 years. They had seen species rise and fall, had witnessed the birth and death of stars, had considered themselves the final arbiters of galactic order. Now, for the first time in their long history, they were afraid. Send an envoy to Earth, ordered the Ancient Council. We must open diplomatic relations immediately. What terms should we offer? Asked their chief diplomat. Whatever they want, came the reply. We are no longer the dominant power in this galaxy. A message from the ancients reached Earth within days. It was a formal request for a meeting, written in the most respectful language their civilization had ever used when addressing another species. President Clark read the message with satisfaction. They want to talk. All of them do, replied Secretary of State Adams. We are receiving diplomatic requests from over 300 species. They all want to establish friendly relations. And the ones who don't? Clark asked. They're hiding, Adams replied, deep in their home systems, hoping we don't notice them. Dr. Webb entered the room, carrying a tablet with sensor readings. Mr. President, we're detecting massive military buildups throughout the galaxy, but not against us. They're building defenses around their own worlds. Clark nodded. They're afraid we might decide to expand our territory. Should we? Asked General Ross. Clark smiled. We don't need to. They're going to give us everything we want voluntarily. The galaxy had learned a lesson about humanity. Now it was time to learn what humanity wanted to do with its newfound power. 6 months after the destruction of the superfleet, the galaxy was a very different place. The great trade routes that had connected thousands of worlds now all led to human space. The military alliances that had dominated galactic politics for millennia had dissolved, replaced by individual species seeking protection from humanity. On Earth, President Clark stood before a gathering of alien ambassadors in the newly constructed Galactic Relations Center. Representatives from over 400 species had come to pay their respects to the new dominant power. "Welcome," Clark began, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "We gather here not as conquerors and conquered, but as neighbors seeking to build a better future." The alien ambassadors listened carefully. Every word from human. Leadership was now analyzed by teams of experts back on their own worlds. Humanity had proven they could destroy entire fleets in seconds. What would they do with that power? Ambassador Vale of the Enlightened spoke first. Her crystalline form glowed with nervous energy. "Great leader of humanity, we come seeking wisdom. Your species has demonstrated capabilities beyond our understanding. How do we coexist with such power?" Clark smiled. "The same way species have always coexisted, with respect, trade, and mutual benefit. We have no desire to rule the galaxy. We simply want to be left alone to grow and explore." The relief in the chamber was palpable. Hundreds of species had been preparing for human conquest fleets that would never come. Asterisk. "However," Clark continued, "we will not tolerate threats to human colonies, human ships, or human citizens." The superfleet was a warning. The next response will be final. Ambassador Korik of the Stone Worlds, his massive form carved from living rock, rumbled his agreement. "Humanity has shown great restraint. A lesser species would have used such power to conquer us all." "We're not a lesser species," Clark replied. "We're human. And humans protect their own." The new galactic order was becoming clear. Humanity would not expand through conquest, but no one would dare oppose them. Trade with human worlds was now the most profitable business in the galaxy. Human technology, once dismissed as primitive, was now desperately sought after. Dr. Webb had been promoted to Secretary of Galactic Defense. His team continued to develop new weapons, each one more terrifying than the last. The galaxy knew that Project Sunfire was just the beginning. "Status report," Webb asked his chief researcher. "Project Starfall is ahead of schedule," Dr. Martinez replied. "We can now weaponize entire star systems. Project Voidbreaker is showing promising results. We can create artificial black holes on demand." Webb nodded. "Good. Make sure the intelligence networks know about these projects. Not the details, just the names." The psychological warfare was just as important as the actual weapons. The galaxy needed to know that humanity was always developing new ways to destroy their enemies. On the mining worlds of the Outer Rim, human companies were now the preferred partners for every major operation. The alien miners worked with newfound respect for their human colleagues. "Past the quantum drill," called out Miner Joe to his reptilian partner. "Of course, friend Joe," replied Slick, handing over the tool with careful respect. 6 months ago, Slick would have considered humans to be inferior. Now he knew better. The changes weren't just political and economic. They were cultural. Human entertainment, human fashion, human food. Everything from Earth was now considered sophisticated throughout the galaxy. On the pleasure world of Golden Sand, alien tourists waited in line to experience human restaurants, human music, human art. The species that had once looked down on humanity now desperately wanted to be more like them. "The humans have such interesting perspectives," commented Lady Zara of the Hive Worlds as she sampled human cuisine. "Their violent nature creates such beautiful art." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Humanity had achieved galactic dominance, not through slow expansion or clever diplomacy, but through a single demonstration of overwhelming force. President Clark concluded the diplomatic gathering with a final statement. "The galaxy has learned that humanity can be a terrible enemy. Today, we hope you'll learn that we can be even, better friends." As the ambassadors departed, each carrying promises of cooperation and gifts of human technology, Clark turned to his advisors. "Sir," asked General Ross, "what's our next move?" Clark looked out at the stars through the chamber's massive window. We keep building. We keep exploring. We keep being human. And if anyone threatens us again? Asked Dr. Webb. Clark's smile was cold. Then we remind them why the galaxy learned to fear us. The superfleet had come to destroy humanity. Instead, it had created the most feared species in galactic history. The age of human dominance had begun, and it would last for as long as the stars burned. Humanity had won more than a battle. They had won the right to exist as themselves, on their own terms, in a galaxy that now understood the price of threatening them. The message was clear. They had sent a superfleet. Humanity had reduced it to ash in seconds. And they would do it again, if necessary. Asterisk.